And welcome back, everyone, to Pokemon Team Creation Series. From there we go, Diego Lorente. I almost didn't have, forgot I wrote the name down. From Diego Lorente, we have Buzz Lightyear of Star Command. Now, obviously, there are multiple Buzz Lightyears. What I mean by that is we obviously have our main Toy Story Buzz, but then there is Buzz Lightyear Star Command, the animated series, and the Lightyear Pixar movie that came out a little while ago. Well, the only real true Buzz we have that we could say is canon is this. I think it's fair enough to consolidate them. For example, there really isn't anything that's a toy Pokemon on this list because Buzz is a toy, and it makes sense to kind of make a Pokemon for that. But what we do have is everything that, say, Buzz Lightyear is actually supposed to be. Obviously, his lore, his story, his history, his profession. What a soldier of Star. I can't remember what exactly it is. He's a commander, explorer of Star Command. Anyway, what someone of his stature and rank of Star Command would use. And so let's just get into it. His ace, his lead, is the all-powerful, all-legendary. Well, legendary, I wouldn't know if I'd go so far as to say all-legendary, if this will decide to actually work properly. Cobalion. Yes, I actually gave him a legendary as his ace and as his main Pokemon. This is actually because Cobalion is the leader of, obviously, the Sacred Swords. Or, sorry, not sword, the Swords of Justice. In essence, they're the Musketeers. But he is the leader, he is the most, and he is the heroic, most heroic one of them, saving other Pokemon. So this actually makes sense for someone like Buzz, who is a leader, who is very heroic and goes out of his way, heroic to go out of his way to save other individuals and explore. So a very firm leader-like Pokemon makes sense for someone like Buzz, who is legendary in Star Command. Beyond that, though, he's not all-American or anything like that. He does give that vibe. So I went with Braviary. One, its name literally has brave in it. That's Buzz to a T. Two, it's also another heroic Pokemon that does help rescue other Pokemon as well. And C, I do, again, Buzz is not technically an American. I mean, as far as we know, he might be. But this might be after the point where, we're like, oh, are you American? Are you, Chinese? Are you European? Are you, African? Or are you Australian? This might be in his history past the point where we're like, we don't care. So there's that. But going even more into that hero, and plus this would be great for scouting when exploring new worlds, or new locations, say in the Pokemon world in this case, where he needs a scout and, Braviary goes and kind of maybe has a camera or something on there and they're getting feedback. But if you want a hero, he's making another appearance from his from last week, Palafin. Palafin, I think this actually makes a lot of sense for Buzz. This is a superhero Pokemon. Buzz himself isn't a straight superhero, but he is very heroic in the way he, does his duties, the way he rescues people and fights villains. So this, I think, does make sense. And he has to go and suit up, so I do like that. But one of the things Buzz has in his command, in his crew, if you will, is aliens. Especially if you're going with Star Command, like the actual cartoon, he has aliens in his group that are part of that. So I did want some extraterrestrial-based Pokemon, but not something like Deoxys. That didn't make any sense. And not Clefable or Clefairy or Cleffa, even though they do come from space. Now, I went with straight Behem because that is a straight alien Pokemon right there. That is an extraterrestrial that is a Pokemon who it looks like it belongs like in a flying saucer. It looks like it belongs in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That makes sense to me for him to have that. Beyond that, though, there's another a somewhat extraterrestrial Pokemon. This one, not quite so much, but this is the only picture I had of it, too, at the time. I went with Minior. Why Minior? Well, because it is a meteorite, more or less. It is a meteorite Pokemon that falls to Earth and then kind of has to, reassemble its shell every time it breaks it. But this works great because it's a Pokemon that generally is wearing a suit all armor, shields down, that's its ability. It gets faster but loses some defense. And it lives in the upper atmosphere in space. So this is something he could have encountered at any point in time, and it makes sense he could have added to the team. It's also a pretty fast Pokemon, and it can fly as his jetpack allows him flight. But last but not least, there's the last Pokemon. This one might seem weird, but bear with me on this. Araquanid. Why Araquanid? Well, when you really think about it, it's a Pokemon that acts like an astronaut. It acts like an explorer. anytime it comes out of the water because it has to wear this giant water bubble on its head, which acts much like the helmet that Buzz wears. I, any astronaut, in theory, this would actually make a very good option for a Pokemon. Yeah, I mean, it is a predatory Pokemon. It's one Pokemon we also kind of forget about, too, the Dewpider Araquanid line, but it is a Pokemon that, and I've never used one, and I should really maybe consider using one on a playthrough at some point, because I heard it's not a terrible Pokemon. And it's got a cool design, too. I do like the design. It's a very, very alien-looking Pokemon, to be sure. So, I do like this in terms of a Pokemon team. Now, in terms of how balanced this team is, it's actually not just balanced, it's surprisingly a very low weakness team. It's only got 3 type weaknesses, which is Rock, Ice, and Electric. The catch-22 on that is half the team, be it Araquanid, Minior, and Braviary, because of the flying type, and Rock doesn't resist Rock, and the Water doesn't resist Rock either. All 3 of those are weak to Rock. There's only 2 weaknesses to Ice, which is Braviary and Minior again. Again, Rock doesn't actually resist Ice. Unfortunately, though, it's got a ×4 weakness to Electricity, which is basically the other 2 halves of this team. Only Behem and Cobalion are not weak to Electric. So that is a bit of a problem, but on the flip side, you've got a ×2 strength against Dark types with a Bug and a Fighting type. You got a ×3 strength against Rock types, again with the Fighting type, the Water and the 2 Water types, as well as just add on there a ×2 strength against Ground because of the 2 Water types, and a ×3 strength against Fire because of the 2 Water types and the 1 Rock type. You got a ×2 strength against Bug with the 2 Flying types. Actually, the Flying and the Rock type, to be fair. Because Minior is double strong against Bug types with its typing. You got a ×3 strength against did I get that right? Flying? No, that can't be right. That can't be. No, I did not get that right. You did not have a ×3 strength against Flying. I don't know where the Flying came from on that. Yeah, I really don't know what I was talking about with the Flying. You do not have a ×3 strength against Flying. You do have a ×3 strength against Grass, though, with the 2 Flying types and the Bug type. And a ×2 strength against Ice types with the Rock type and the Ice type. So you've got a pretty good team against a lot of types, but as we get into the how well would this team do in terms of like the games and going through the regions, it's one of those things where it's a good, solid team, but it runs up against a big problem with one certain type of Pokemon, which we'll get to. In Kanto, you will struggle immediately with Surge. Cobalion does have the typing that resist it, Electric, to a certain degree, but it also is unfortunately just low-leveled. Like, it's a Legendary, and it has Legendary S stats, but it's a lower-tier Legendary. It's not, unfortunately, it's not like Rayquaza or Zekrom, Yveltal. It's not a main box Legendary, so its base stat total is on the lower side. It's still got great stats. It also lacks a lot in its move pool early on. It's still got Metal Claw, it's got Double Kick, sure, but a lot of its better moves don't come till later on. Still, I don't think it's impossible to beat Surge. With just a Rufflet and a Palafin against that, lead in with those guys, get what damage you can, and then use Cobalion, because if Cobalion goes down, your team's screwed. But after that, though, you really don't struggle at all, actually, throughout the entire region until you get to the Elite Four. Like, the rest of Erica, you actually should be fine. Steel's going to resist be immune to any poison-type moves. And conversely, Koga should be no problem at all as well. At that point, you have your full team, so Sabrina shouldn't be that big of a problem, even though Cobalion's now weak to Sabrina. You have Araquanid, which is a Bug type, and you have a Psychic type of your own, plus Palafin's stats when it transforms are pretty nuts. But it's the Elite Four where I think you actually stop. And this reveals the big problem with this team. You don't struggle with Lorelei, because she's got Ice types. You should actually be all right. You won't struggle that much with Bruno. You've got an advantage against, you got 2 times, what was it, 2? No, 3 advantage against Fighting. Oh, that's what it was supposed to be. It wasn't Fire, it was Fighting I was supposed to, right? You do have a ×3 strength against Fighting with both with Minior with flying moves, BAM, and our Braviary. So you should be fine there. Ghost typing you will struggle a little bit with, but you should have some like physical move, like fighting or normal moves on the team, especially with Cobalion, so you'll be fine. But Dragon is completely resisting this team. Well, not completely, but the water type moves you have, Dragon resists that. Any fire, electric, or grass type moves also are resisted. Steel does resist Dragon, but he also has Aerodactyl and I believe Charizard on the team at that point in time. So yeah, and even then you're still gonna have to be going up against Dragonairs, all that. You have no move. You have no fairy moves on this team, and no dragon moves on this team. You have no strong type effective moves on this team. And even Palafin, who actually has the best stats of the group when it transforms, doesn't really have moves under its belt that can do much. So this is a problem for this team. And even though this is the weaker version of Lance, you would get to the stronger one later on in Johto. I don't think you can get past this team, unfortunately. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying I'm not 100% sure. But then that leads into Pidgeot or Blue, who you definitely would have a better shot against, but you still got to get past Lance. So I'm going to say it's a very hard maybe. With Johto, I'm going to tell you right now, you're already in trouble. Not surprising with Faulkner, because your Steel type resists, and you got Metal Clutch, you should be fine. But when it comes to Morty, you're actually going to struggle a bit, because the only thing you really have to your advantage is some water moves and a Steel type move. So there's that. Then you're going to struggle, and then you get the Claire. And again, it's the problem of you're just not good against Dragon. She's got 2 Dragonairs, a Gyarados, and a Kingdra. The Gyarados is probably going to be the easiest one to take down, just because you do have some rock moves at your disposal with Minior. If you do, and you won't even have your full team here. You won't have Rufflet. You'll just barely have Palafin. So there's that. Sorry, you won't have Braviary. You'll have Rufflet, not that. So that you're already going to be at a problem level-wise. Dragonairs are going to resist a lot of it. And then Kingdra's a beast unto itself. Because it neutralizes one of Kingdra's only weakness, Dragon's only weakness is ice. The only weakness Kingdra actually straight out has is Dragon or Fairy. That's it. So water typing, and this was before Fairy existed, so the only thing you could have had at the time to go toe-to-toe with Kingdra was a Dragonair you got from the game corner if you spent all that time gambling. So, yeah, I don't think you can get past Claire, honestly. And if you can, you'd still struggle with Will, because you do have some weaknesses to both flying and psychic on this team. You'd struggle with Koga to a certain degree, but you would be okay a lot with Cobalion. And you got BEM. Bruno should be fine. Even Karen should be fine. But you're not getting past Lance. 3 Dragonites, plus a Charizard, Aerodactyl, and Gyarados. You're not getting past Lance. Yeah, you got the water to deal with Gyarados and Aerodactyl to some degree. But, Charizard and Aerodactyl. But I said Minior can kind of be an answer to Gyarados, and it kind of can, but it's also straight out weak to Gyarados too. And this is assuming you get the Palafin in to actually take down the other 2. And then you still got to deal with the 3 freaking Dragonites. And even then, Braviary wouldn't be fully evolved, because Johto is such an underleveled regent. So, it's, I don't think you get to beat Johto. I'm going to tell you right now, you end at Drake in Hoenn. The only other fight that would be kind of difficult, sort of difficult, and even then not that difficult, would be something along the lines of either Juan or Wallace, because you also don't really have any strength against water types on this team. You got some water types that are relatively neutral, but you're actually got more weaknesses against water on this team than you have strength against water. So, yeah, those guys would be a little tough, no doubt. You can get past Sydney, no problem. Phoebe would be a little difficult, especially if you don't have any dark moves on this team. But, because otherwise you need ghost moves, so you might have some trouble here. Although BM can, I think, learn Shadow Ball. I don't know if it learns it naturally, but it can learn it. Glacius should be no problem, but once again, it's dragon typing that's the problem. You do not have a good answer for Drake's team. You just don't. Yeah, I mean, Altaria's relatively okay to deal with. It's not that strong, but Flygons? The dragon type still makes water neutral, so even your Araquanid and Palafin aren't necessarily in the best positions. Assuming that we're dealing with, say, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, you're then dealing with Salamence and possibly Mega Salamence later on. But you're dealing with Salamence, which, good luck. Because Minior, even if it has a somewhat type advantage with the Rock, is not really doing much. And I think I'm forgetting one. I think he either has a Shelgon or something else on the team that I'm forgetting at the moment. So yeah, Drake, I don't think you could beat. Even if, let's say, you did, hypothetically, your chances against Steven actually aren't great because the only Mon on the team you have that's strong against Steel, which makes up at minimum half of his team, and all three of those guys are no joke, Skarmory, Aggron, and Metagross, is Cobalion. And Cobalion is going to go down to an Earthquake fast. And that's still not answering the three rock types very well because Lily is neutral to the two water types you have. Claydol is a ground psychic, so you would have to throw out Palafin. So it would be difficult. And then again, Metagross is something you just don't have a straight answer to at all on this team. And Skarmory, you don't even have a good answer for. So I don't even think you could beat Steven. I think it'd be a drawn-out fight, but I don't think you could do it. In terms of Sinnoh, again, it comes down simply to the champion. And really, actually, I'll take that back. You would struggle with Wagner. You would struggle with him because he is electric type gym leader. He's only got 2 straight electric types unless you're doing platinum, in which case he's got the Electivire. But even with just having Raichu and Luxray on the team, your team is 2/3 weak to electric. That's not going to, and they have non-electric moves that could handle Cobalion, like Focus Blast and things along those lines. So that's not going to be an easy one fight. But if we get past that, how are you with the rest of the Elite Four? Well, Aaron, Bug type, you should be fine. You got 2 flying types. Bertha, you got 2 strong water types. Flint, water types, and fighting types for Steelix. Lucian would be problematic to a certain degree. That psychic typing would take down Cobalion pretty quick. But after that, it's a game of moving the pieces on the board. So I'm not saying it'd be impossible. I'm just saying it'd be difficult to say the least. And then we have Cynthia. I'm gonna tell you right now, you cannot beat Cynthia. You just can't. You don't have a fairy type on this team, so that's first and foremost. Which means you don't have something to actually go for the one weakness it has for that Spirit Tomb. So you're going to have to struggle against that Spirit Tomb quite a bit. And honestly, the only thing you really have that'll do anything on the team is either Palafin or Braviary. Because Araquanid has water type moves that would be neutral, but doesn't have the stat line. Bug type moves are neutral because Ghost resists Bug. Minior is way too weak to be doing anything against that thing. You gotta swap out of Cobalion into Braviary, and even then, that's no freaking guarantee. So there's a good chance you're gonna lose a giant chunk of your team. Switch into Palafin, then switch into maybe Minior, take the hit, switch back into Palafin, then maybe you could take down, just from a stat perspective, the Spirit Tomb. But then the Rose Raid comes out, and your Palafin's effed against that Rose Raid, so you then have to go and taking Cobalion, who's going to be immune to poison and resistant to grass, sure. But then the Gastrodon would probably come in, Earthquake or whatever, so no matter what, someone's going down in that scenario. So you got to make the choice, either sacrifice another Mon, which you probably have lost Minior and Braviary at this point, or have Cobalion take the hit. Cobalion stat-wise is probably one of your best Mons, so you're going to have to take the hit. You're going to have someone else take the hit. It's probably got to be either Behem or Araquanid, and if you know the team she has, which you should, Araquanid is probably the better choice. So Araquanid has to go down. That way you can swap back into Palafin, who is at least going to be able to take down the Gastrodon, but it's going to be taking hits at this point too, because now it's been out a little bit. It's been doing the best it can. It's either going to be then Milotic or Lucario. And if it's Lucario, you're in a more trouble. Actually, if it's like low tick, you're also in trouble because it's going to be water versus water. Either way, I don't see the Palafin making it to the end, which means you're down to just BM and Cobalion. Then you got Lucario, who BM might be able to take down, but Lucario's just got a better stat pool and better mold pool. So if it doesn't take Lucario down, now you got Cobalion who does take it down, and then Garchomp takes down the Cobalion. So yeah, no, it's not looking good. That Spiritomb against this team is a huge problem, a serious problem. Now in Unova, you'll start to struggle with Elisa a little bit. That definitely will struggle because you don't have Palafin. You have Finizen because you're not at that level yet. The only thing you really have is Cobalion, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't know if you've got the best odds with Cobalion at that because it's only in the mid 20s at that point, low 20s, low 30s. It's difficult to say the least. If you could get past him, you could and go all the way to the end. You still don't have to deal with either Drayden or Iris, depending on the version. And again, you just don't have strong answers to Dragon on this team. It's just not a good matchup. If you can get past all of them, and there's no guarantee you can you beat Alder or Iris? Iris right out the gate, no. 3 dragons, all of them are type resisting. A lot of these guys, particularly Hydreigon, being immune to Psychic. You're pretty screwed against Iris in this team. Alder, however, there is a possibility you could beat him because Cobalion comes out against Selgor. Selgor's going to be resisted. Okay, that's not good. But then Volcarona comes out, and you would have to swap in to finish the problem. Okay, so the problem immediately is this: it's getting a Quiver Dance off. You know you're not going to be able to take that thing down with Cobalion, so you swap in, and you probably swap it, and you know it's going to go for a Quiver Dance, so you swap in the Palafin, swap out, but now you know something's going to have to take a hit. You go with Minior. Minior just doesn't have the stat pool against the Volcarona with a Quiver Dance on it to last. Then you bring in the Palafin. The problem, though, still is that the Quiver Dance means that it can probably take a hit from the Palafin, and it also has Bug Buzz. So if you better pray you can take down that Volcarona with the Palafin. Because if you cannot, you are screwed. That's just it. Because that Volcarona will run rampant on your team. Even if you take it down, you still have 4 other Mon to go against. So it's a tentative maybe, but it all is going to rely on Palafin taking that Volcarona down. Because you frankly have almost an answer for everything else on the team except for that damn Selgor. Excavalier. That Excavalier is only weak to fire. So you do not have a firm answer for that. But everything else, Buffalon, you got an answer for that. Vanillux, you have an answer for. Druddigon, you don't really have an answer for, but it's a weaker level dragon, so you should be fine. But yeah, it's tough. It is tough. So maybe for Alder, definitely no for Iris. And Kalos, honestly, you really shouldn't have a problem with anyone. Even the first gym, which is Bug, which means resist fighting, Cobalion starts with Metal Claw, so you should be fine. Really, you're not going to struggle until you get to the Elite Four with Steel types of Wingstrom and Dragons with Diantha, or Dryantha. Or Drantha, I think that's her name. Just because you don't have firm answers to either of those types on this team. Same for Cobalion, and half of those Mons, those Steel types, resist fighting. So it is problematic on that team, to say the least, of what to do. Especially when you're dealing with Scizor, or who also has a bug and can then lay into Behem pretty well. And the fairy Kefkli, or Kepkli. Is it Kefkli? Klefki, not Klee. Key. Klefki. So yeah, it's, and then obviously we've broken record here. You're no good against dragons on this team, which then leads into you, if you can get past them, going with against Diantha, whose Halucha is already a freaking problem for you because she's going to Swords Dance this thing. Cobalion is not a good answer for it, so you're going to have to go into either BEM or maybe Araquid. Maybe, or Braviary. Braviary is actually probably your best bet because it knows frickin' X-Scissor, so you do not want that thing to hit BM. But it's going to outspeed Braviary immensely, and it's got Poison Jab on it too. It's possible the Braviary goes down before the Hawlucha, but the Hawlucha wouldn't be lasting much longer. So after your Braviary goes down, go into Palafin, then swap out, let something else take the hit. Go Araquanid. It can at least resist the Flying Press to a certain degree. And then when it goes down, you bring in Palafin to kind of wreak havoc on Tyrantrum, which again, Dragon would resist water, but stat wise, it's completely got Tyrantrum kind of beat. As well as Aurorus. Goodra, though, is going to be problematic. It's going to resist most things you have. It resists everything on the team. So Palafin's going to struggle, and Goodra's got a decent move pool, to say the least. And then, so if Palafin doesn't go down and manages to take out Goodra, then Gourgeist comes in and would take down the Palafin. So you're down 2 Mon to her 4. But the problem, again, comes in, you don't really have a good answer for Gourgeist. Yeah, you got Bug, but it's also Water, and it's also Ghost. So fighting moves are no-go. Steel-type moves or Bug moves are probably the best, and even then it's going to resist. So, to a certain, or going to be neutral. So you might end up losing either, you probably are losing Araquanid here. At that point, then she brings in Mega Gardevoir. I don't think it's likely you win in this scenario. Cobalion can put up a fight. Its Steel type does resist, but it also has a Psychic move under its belt too. So, in the long haul, I don't think it's likely. I think it's possible, but unlikely. Then, if we're going all the way to Galar, unfortunately, Kabu is always the problem. And you have a Water type this time, but the problem is he's not at the level to evolve yet. And Cobalion's Steel type means it's just going to get hammered by fire. So, unfortunately, I don't think you get past the 3rd gym. Even if you made it all the way to the Elite Four, you don't have a good answer for Aegislash at all. So Aegislash is probably going to wreak havoc on this team for a little bit. You're losing someone, guaranteed. So I guess you got to make the sacrifice to make it BEM and to go into Palafin and get that win. But then comes out the Dragapult, which has Dragon Breath, freaking Shadow Ball, Flamethrower, and Thunderbolt, which means it can run this entire team on its own. It takes down the Palafin with Thunderbolt, and it takes, in fact, the giant majority of your team, and then Cobalion gets taken down with Flamethrower. So, yeah, again, I'm a broken record on this. That should have been his ace. But regardless, give it a Gigantamax that looks like an aircraft carrier. We're good. Or some sort of like stealth bomber monster thing. And then finally, you get to Paldea, where you deal with Iono. And why do I say Iono? Because you can beat Kate with because you have Metal Claw, and you should be fine against Brassius. Iono again is the problem. She has 3 Mon. Actually, no, she has 4 Mon. No. Does she have 4 Mon? I believe she has 4 Mon, doesn't she? She's a very rare circumstance in this where she has, I think, 4 Mon. She has the Kilowattrel, the Wattrel. She has the Miss Magus, which are ace, the Lux, yep, and she has the Belly Bolt. That's right. Yeah, I remember now. And 2/3 of your team are weak at the moment with Electric, and your Cobalion is only in the mid-20s. You're screwed. You're really not in a good position right now. And if you got all the way to Gita, could you beat Gita? Well, she starts out with a Pather, which has an edge over pretty much everything on the team. Well, not edge over Cobalion type-wise. You don't want to lose Cobalion, so you switch into something that is more resistant, like Araquanid. It's unfortunately, stat-wise, it might not be able to take the Pathra down. She then goes into, I believe it's Veluza afterwards, or is it Go-Go? I can't remember which one she goes in afterwards. But she goes in afterwards with that, with one of those anyway. Because King Gambit always comes out like third to like middle, like the 3rd one, which I always, or like, no, like 4th one, which I always found weird. Because save it for the last, but whatever. So it's either Veluza or Go-Go that comes out, which is another Psychic type, which is and that's going to take down the Araquanid. After that, go in again, bring in the Palafin, swap it out, take the loss on Minior. You're going to have to, and then bring up Palafin, and Palafin can run wild on that. But then Go-Go comes out, type advantage, not good. So you're going to have to switch out into Cobalion. Or Braviary. Braviary is probably the better option in this case. And deal with that. Then comes out King Gambit with Supreme Overlord ability, but it's times 4 weak to fighting, so Cobalion can take care of that. It can also take care of the Avalog and would take care of the Glamora. So yes, in theory, if you did get the Gita, you'd become champion or a champion ranked trainer. But I just don't see it happening. Personally, I don't think you get past Iono. So anyway, I digress. That's my thoughts. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.